I could just sit here and rattle off everything that I think about the Singapore Grand Prix and the McLaren situation and how they've been treating our OSC. The main message is hands off our OSC. That's what we're trying to say. I'm actually really surprised that the sway of general opinion is so majority supporting of Oscar. And if you disagree, let me know. But everything that I see is kind of wall to wall supporting of Oscar. Like, we can dispel the myth right at the top. That McLaren posted like a team photo where they're up on the podium and everyone's cheering, we're constructors champions. And Oscar wasn't there and everyone was like, how dare you celebrate? How dare you celebrate when your championship leader's not there? The guy that got you more than half of your points isn't there. How dare you celebrate? And someone, pointed out, look, it was kind of a go right now and just do this kind of thing. We all just got told to go and do it. So we just did it. It wasn't really a planned thing. It was just bad luck. Oscar was around later. He celebrated later. But man, Singapore was really one of those cluster things. I rag on the race when they post silly videos and have dumb opinions, but let's check out this video they made because I think this one hits the nail on the head. This is the first video that I saw about the situation, but I think it does, the best job of accurately summing up the facts, but also reflecting how I feel too. Let's get into it.
McLaren's title-fighting teammates Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri have finally collided properly on track, and the team now finds itself in a...
No, they haven't finally collided properly on track. I mean, they collided in Canada. What he means is collided in terms of battle, and there was a result.
Right mess over interfering with their title battle. Norris's wheel-banging pass on Piastri on the opening lap of the Singapore Grand Prix was not fully investigated by the stewards, and McLaren opted to take no action either, despite Piastri's clear anger at what Norris did.
So a lot has been made of this part. The stewards thought it was fine, so therefore hands off. You need to understand that where this is coming from is McLaren have intervened plenty of times, and the standard is not whether the stewards got involved or not. The standard is whether they want to get involved or not. So everyone's saying, I'm on Team Lando because the stewards cleared Lando of any wrongdoing. That is not how this works.
The immediate justification was that Norris hit Piastri because he had to avoid Max Verstappen, but we'll get to that slightly limp rationale, why Norris wasn't punished by his own team, and what the consequences of that are later in this video. We've been waiting for this kind of clash for a long time. Apart from Norris clumsily driving into the back of Piastri in Canada and wrecking his own race, the two have had several near misses, and there have been simmering tensions around strategy, team...
Yeah, so we have to make something of that, because first of all, the two drivers have made contact twice. Both Lando Norris instigated and his fault. And a lot was made, they just showed a shot there from Austria this year where after Canada, when, it looked like Oscar was going to get overtaken. It looked like he was going to lose out to Lando. Lando hit him. Friggin' hit him. On that occasion, Oscar came out on top and Lando lost out big. But then again, Lando was the one that made the mistake. So he has to wear that. The race after that was Austria, and Lando Norris qualified, and then Oscar had his qualifying disrupted by a yellow flag, and he couldn't qualify, so he had to qualify. His lesser time was what counted, so we don't know what he would have been able to do or not. He sure thought he was going to do better. It certainly wasn't fair. There's that. And then Oscar was following Lando, and he felt that he had a bit of extra pace. He felt that he had a chance. He had a few lunges at Lando and had to lock up a couple of times. And the team told him, hey, whoa. Hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't go trying to overtake like that. That's wild. Don't do that. That's crazy. Talking to him like he was a child. Didn't say that when Lando hit the other guy. Didn't say it this race when Lando slammed into the side and banged wheels with Oscar. Didn't say anything. Zach Brown afterwards was saying he was boasting about how clean his drivers are and how they never cause problems with the way they drive. Like, mate, give me a break.
Orders and the dreaded papaya rules. This proper...
Stop. We have to define the papaya rules. Everybody gets this wrong and it drives me insane. Everyone's like, we want to end to papaya rules. I just want these guys to be able to race. Guys, that's what papaya rules is. Papaya rules means they can race. The opposite of papaya rules is team rules. Team orders. Please, everybody get it straight. It's really important. We're sick of papaya rules. We don't want papaya rules. Just let them race. Papaya rules means they can race.
position-changing clash which helped Norris cut Piastri's lead to 22 points, and that McLaren actively chose to let go, is a significant moment. It heaps fresh scrutiny on its policy with its drivers, and clearly had a much bigger impact on Piastri than any other flashpoint has so far. That wider context is critical, as the wheel banging between Norris and Piastri is a classic example of what can happen on the first lap. Harsh on Piastri, but not particularly surprising to see the stewards let it go.
Think of the times when Piastri has been annoyed. Think of the times. So he gets hit in Canada, bit annoyed. Austria gets told off, hey, stop trying to overtake. What are you doing? That's annoying. Silverstone. Piastri has a huge lead. They pull out a safety car. He loses his huge lead. Copse, I'm still saying, pretty dodgy penalty. And Lando ends up ahead. And then Piastri gets on the radio and says, I don't think this is fair. And if you don't think it's fair too, let's swap the cars and then you can let us race. Now, I'm the first one to say that was never going to happen. And as dodgy as I think that penalty was, I'm not saying that they should have swapped cars. But Piastri clearly then wasn't happy, and they clearly talked about stuff. But the other reason that you have to think about, like, well, what has been going on behind the scenes? Because they don't tell us. But what's been going on behind the scenes after Norris hits Piastri in Canada? After Austria, when Oscar tries to challenge for an overtake and gets told not to. After Hungary last year. After Monza last year. These guys know what they're doing. When Oscar comes on the radio and says, I don't think this is fair, it's telling. Because it means that the team have agreed that they're going to try and keep it fair. Think of the message that they told Oscar. Control the controllables, right? This is what the team's trying to do. Control the controllables. Pretty ironic. Especially when you think of the Monza pit stop that they screwed up between Lando and Oscar, where Lando was ahead. Oscar pitted first. They pitted Lando and his pit stop was slow. And then they said, that's not fair, so you guys have got to switch it back around. And Oscar was like, look, we talked about this. Guys, we talked about this. We've talked about this. And we said, slow pit stop, we don't swap. That's part of racing. We're not doing that. So he said, we're going to have to talk about this later. I don't know what's going on, but we said we weren't going to do that. And now you're doing it. So he did it. It's clear the team owes him one, right? It's clear the team owes him one.
Piastri took serious issue with what Norris called a small correction, saying he barged him out of the way, and outright called it not fair when told by McLaren they wouldn't be doing anything about it.
Yeah. So after the race, when Sky were dissecting it and giving it their completely unbiased, can you see that I'm winking? Sky with their completely un-British bias, loud wink, loud clicking noise into the microphone, not Lando Norris biased at all. Said, oh, man. And Lando said, oh, it was so wet and slippery. And then they also said, oh, but Max had a snap of oversteer. Oh, and also this and that. Also, they were trying to say it was Oscar's fault. They were like, oh, you can see Oscar nudging over here to make the angle harder for Lando. And then Lando gets his car straight. And this is Anthony Davidson speak. Like, he's trying to deploy 100% of his braking potential in a straight line. I was like, dude, he drove into the back of Max Verstappen. They were trying to say, like, oh, he was avoiding Max Verstappen. Like, well, that's his problem. That's his fault. And then post-race, when they said to Lando, would you do anything different? And then Lando said, I've got a lot more to lose than Oscar. I would not deliberately drive into the side of my teammate. And it's like, right. So you're admitting that you weren't in control of your car. That makes it so much better. We'll get to that later when we talk about the Hamilton story as well. But man, when you're out of control of your car and you admit it, and then you hit the other driver and then you end up getting in front of him, it really doesn't make the case for you keeping that position. And again, it's not about what Lando did wrong. Again, the stewards cleared it. It's a first lap incident. It's an incident between teammates. They really rarely penalise those. It's about this situation and this frankly bullshit that McLaren have been going on with this year. We have them to thank for these two drivers racing each other, which is great. But it's also sucking the fucking life out of this championship. Sport is about the drama, the highs and lows, the luck. How many times have you heard people say, champions make their own luck? It's not champions make their own luck when the team helps them. And even Lando was like, when you see a gap and you don't go for it, if you're not going to go for it, you shouldn't be in Formula One anymore. The saying isn't, if you see a gap and you don't go for it, you should no longer be driving in Formula One, unless the team decides to help you, and then in which case it's fine anyway.
The problem with McLaren's drive for fairness is that you can talk about hypotheticals all you like, but there's so many scenarios that can arise that will be open to interpretation. Piastri was told to control the controllables by...
This drives me insane too. Like I said before, Piastri was told, control the controllables. And it's like, mate, that's what he's telling you to do. I mean, there's no question that he lost that position because of the contact. And if there was no contact, like for Lando to avoid that contact, he would have had to have gotten out of that move, which would have at least given Oscar a chance to defend, if not just firmly hold that position. You can't argue any otherwise. So he was asking the team, please control the controllables. You're in control of what you tell the drivers. You did it at Monza. You know, we did it at Monza. In Monza, Lando wasn't at fault and Oscar wasn't at fault, but the team took action. Here, this is worse because Oscar wasn't at fault, but Lando was. So take action.
Race engineer Tom Stallard when he was complaining in race. But perhaps McLaren is guilty of trying to control the uncontrollables with the extent of how it tries to manage fairness between the drivers and has effectively overpromised on what it is possible to manage. That always had the potential to create flashpoints during the title running, and it has already. Which means McLaren has played a key part in the obvious tension that clouds what should be a day of celebration, given it won the Constructors' Championship.
That was everybody's take, was like, bittersweet. Win the Constructors for the second year in a row. It's their second time that they've won the Constructors. Like, they've only won 10. You think of McLaren as one of the most successful teams in Formula One history. They've only won 10 Constructors. Like, Ferrari's won 16 or something. But that doesn't even count. They've won 2 with these 2 guys, and they've only won 10 total. Like, this is incredible success these guys are having. I don't know, man. I just don't know. Zach Brown, so cringe. Kissing the camera and everything. Like I say, saying that our drivers drive really clean. The very race. The very race where there's the biggest controversy that we've had. I actually was thinking about this. The outpouring online of frustration and annoyance at this event is huge. And this is like the 3rd or 4th flashpoint that we've had between these two. It might be the biggest controversy we've had since Abu Dhabi 2021, if you think about it. I can't think of anything that's annoyed as many people and has been so one-sided since then. So whose side are you on? And what do you want done in future? It drives me crazy when I see things online and people saying like, you know, earlier this year and last year, Lando Norris was getting criticised because he wasn't getting his elbows out enough. He was like half-hearted moves that weren't coming off because he wasn't fully committing. And now he fully commits and pushes through. And what do? You criticize him for doing a great overtake. I was like, look, I've been watching Formula One a long time. I'm not saying that was a penalty-worthy move, but it also wasn't a fair move. You can't say that was a fair move. And when you drive and make contact with 2 other cars, that is your fault, bro. And you need to own that. And I just think, again, Oscar's put in a position of going to the team hat in hand and saying, please, sir, some of this fairness that you keep giving to Lando and taking from me, please, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more for old Oscar, please. I had hoped after the DNF that Lando had in Zandvoort, I had hoped that Oscar would go on and win the championship, but not just win it, but win it having pulled out a bigger points lead. So that there could be no doubt. So that the classic British doubters and haters would not say, oh yeah, but Lando had a DNF and he finished within 10 points. So if you factor that in, he really would have won. Crap like that. Because that stuff drives me crazy. But it's also like, that's what sport is about, man. That's what sport's about, man. Sometimes you have bad luck. That's called sport. That's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it dynamic. It leaves you to stew on the good and bad luck that you have. Not because there's some kind of force determining things to go that way or not, but just because it adds tension, it adds drama. And McLaren, again, are sucking all of the tension and drama out of this championship. They're just literally sucking the life out of it. Want proof? Look at how excited everybody got when Max Verstappen was emerging as a new threat. Imagine being excited about the prospect of another Max Verstappen championship right now. Imagine how shit the situation has to be. That people are like, another Max Verstappen championship? Well, yes, please. We're keen for that. Yes, please. That means you're in a bad situation. A real bad situation. I still feel that this year there will be a race. Just some race. That Oscar just blitzes it and wins. There's still 6 races to go. There's plenty of points up for grabs. It's still advantage Oscar, sure. This is the kind of race that he needed to have in Baku. Where neither of them win, Lando gets some points and Oscar's still right there. But that didn't happen. But this is what Oscar needed to do that race and not be an idiot and crash like an idiot. But I still think there will be some race there. Oscar comes out, wins it, and ends up winning the championship. I think that will still happen. We'll see. The threat of Max Verstappen winning races or scoring lots of points should worry Lando Norris. Because if Max is not a threat, Piastri looks the hard man to beat. If Max Verstappen starts to charge and keeps gaining points on Lando Norris, now that the Constructors is wrapped up at McLaren, as long as Piastri's ahead, if Verstappen closes in on Lando Norris and gets close, or even passes him, it's got to be game over for Lando Norris. And you've got to get behind Oscar Piastri for the championship. Because I'm sure, they did this last year. They backed Lando Norris last year because he was the one who was charging and a potential threat for Max Verstappen. I say potential because I never really believed it. I don't think anyone ever really believed it other than bloody Will Buxton or whoever. Made a video about that as well, highlighting Will Buxton calling out for the team to get behind one of the drivers because they were the better chance to win the championship. Well, let's see what happened if Max Verstappen charges, gets close to or passes Lando Norris. Let's see if he changes his tune then. I think it was Oscar Piastri turning his radio off though when Zach Brown was congratulating him. Oh man, what a great championship. We did it. Click.
Oscar, back-to-back champions. Good race, tough race. Thank you for